Um, I want to welcome you all to today's live event once again. Today we're going to be talking about proof of funds. One major reason why study visas are refused is because of proof of funds. So this morning we're going to be answering your questions and also explaining how you need to know as regards proof of funds. My name is Toyosi Labeodon, and I'm the principal immigration consultant of TrueLink Immigration Services. I'm here today with one of my colleagues who is also an immigration consultant. She works with us at TrueLink. Her name is Colin. Colin, you're welcome to this event.
Yes, hello, thank you. Glad to be back.
Yeah, that's nice. So before we go on, I would like to encourage everyone to subscribe and follow us on all our social media channels. We're actually on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, and we're on Twitter. So we also want to encourage you to also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our handle is at TrueLink Travel for all these channels. You know, we post a lot of videos regularly on all these channels. We post a lot of educational videos and materials on them, and I'm sure when you watch them, it will actually benefit you. For those that want to do process application by themselves, if you go to our channels, you'll see so many videos, so many things that will help you process your application. So just subscribe, follow us on each of these channels, and I'm sure it's going to be worth it at the end of the day. So, as we said earlier, we're going to be talking about proof of funds. And we are both immigration consultants, and in our practice, we get to advise clients, we get to review statement of accounts, we get to review financial documents that clients want to submit with the application. And over the years, this has actually made us to become very experienced in what we do. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to come today and discuss this topic with you. Actually, so many people they've sent so many questions to us, and we have picked one or two of them that we're going to talk about. Then we also give people, they're going to ask questions later on in the process, and we will answer all your questions live during this event. So let me just give a recap of proof of funds. You know, proof of funds, as I said earlier, it's one of the major things that you need when you want to study in Canada. In fact, not even study, when you want to do work permits, you want to study, you want to come to visit, it is important that you should have very good proof of funds or financial documents, whichever way it is, you must have that. You know, so and that's why we're here today. So Colin, I said this is one of the things we discussed very well, and we advise our clients many times. You know, we see so many types of funds, proof of funds documents, financial documents. We review them, you know, and this is one of the things that we do. And I'm sure we can say that we have been able to assist so many people improve on what they have. What comment do you have on that? Questions?
I completely agree. I think it's so important to look at all of the different types of accounts or different funds that they want to use and review them at the beginning of the process, because a lot of people say, oh yeah, I've got the money, I have the minimum requirements, and then you see their accounts and there are maybe some minor issues with them that could be a problem later on, and you want to resolve that as soon as possible. And then the other thing is, it's quite common. We get a lot of clients who they had the money. They said, you know, I got refused, and they said they refused me for money, but I have all the money. And you look at what they sent in, and you see, oh, all of those same problems that we would have probably seen in the review, they're all in their documents, and you can see why they were refused very easily.
Let me give an example. We had a client who came to us recently, about 3 weeks ago. You know, I was talking naira now. She had about 40 million naira in her accounts. And when she did the application by herself because she believed she had the funds and everything, and that they will approve her visa. And she got her application. Application was actually refused. And she came to us, and we analyzed her profile, you know, and we were able to tell her. We analyzed the documents that she submitted to the embassy, and at the end of the day, we were able to talk to her and show her what we think went wrong. We also requested for the GCMS note, and the exact thing that we mentioned was the issue that the officer talked about when
Mhm.
we saw it. So what I'm trying to say is the fact that you have funds in your account does not mean you can still be refused. No, but there are things you need to do. There are things you need to explain, which today, by the end of the seminar, you'll get to know all of that as well. Those are some of the things we're going to discuss with you. So, what questions do we have? Let's start.
Okay, let's look at some of the questions here. So I think one of the big questions that we get a lot is how much tuition are they going to have to pay? A lot of people ask this question. And we usually tell them the average amount. The average amount of tuition in Canada is about 15,000 Canadian dollars to maybe 22,000 Canadian dollars. But it's going to depend on the program that you're taking and which school you get into.
Yeah, that's true. You have well, the average is between 15 and 22,000 or thereabouts. You have then it also depends on the program you're also going for. So if you are going for law, medicine, or some other competitive courses, their school fees can be up to $30,000. But
Mhm.
most times the schools that we work with, actually, the range of school fees is between 15,000 to 20 to 22,000, depending on the program you're also going for. So if you have like $20,000 Canadian dollars, you are sure that you will be able to get a school that will take you. There are still
Mhm.
one or two schools that may have that their school fees may be cheaper than that. One or two schools. We have some schools that their school fees is about 9,500 or thereabout. But admission in those schools are always very competitive. Then your course of choice may not actually be in that school, or the level that you want to. So maybe you want to come for a master's and they have just a diploma. And definitely you can't if you're coming for a master's, I don't think because of school fees you will now want to select a diploma course, and that can actually lead to a refusal. So the average school fees for most courses is between $15,000 and $20,000 or $22,000 or thereabouts. But we still have some schools that have lesser fees than that, and some that their fees are way higher than that. So you need to have that. So if you don't have that funds, I don't think it makes sense applying to Canada. You need to have the
Yeah.
funds. You need to have that
Yeah,
fund.
and a lot of people ask, oh, that seems really high. But actually, when you look at the average tuition costs for some similar countries,
Yeah,
it's quite reasonable compared to USA or UK or New Zealand. That those places have higher average fees than
yeah.
Canada, but higher education is still quite expensive in these countries. So,
Let me break it down into naira, because we have many of our clients from Nigeria. Now,
mm,
we're talking of you having $20,000. $20,000, let me see, is about in naira as of today. Let me. I'm trying to do the math here. That's 20,000 times. It's about 7 million naira, maybe between 6.5 and 7 million naira.
mm,
That's it. But if you are going to schools, let me mention UK, because we also process UK study. If you are schooling in the UK, you have a school fees. Your average is average anyway, cannot be less than times maybe like 9 or 10 million naira. It cannot be less than 10 million naira for 1 year
mm,
for 1 year program. So you've seen the difference. You can get schools in Canada where you can pay like 6.56 million to 7 million naira, and in the UK the average school fees will go for like 10 million to 12 million, depending on the course you are studying.
mm,
So the relatively school fees in Canada is cheaper than most of these other countries that you have that you can compare. US, Australia, UK, Canada. Canada still has a cheaper. The school fees you pay in Canada is cheaper than most of these other countries. So I think that's fine. I think we are done with that.
Yeah, and that leads really well into another popular question that we get, which is how much are your living costs going to be? And actually, there is an amount that you are required to show. And so that's a really easy question to answer because you have to show at least 10,000 Canadian to cover your accommodation, your living expenses while you're studying. So altogether, then that's going to be usually when people ask, how much should I show? How much should I show? We say usually around 10 million naira will cover your tuition, and it will cover your living expenses for that, at least that 1 year that you are coming here. And that's all you have to, that's all you are required to show on your application. So if you can do that, then you've met the requirement.
Yeah, that's true. You need to have 10,000 for 1 year. So if your program is not up to 1 year, you may not be up to that. You need about 800 and maybe like $840 per month. So if your program is like 8 months, at the end of the day, you will not spend up to $10,000. You will not need up $10,000 as living expense. But if it's a 1 year program, then it's going to be about $10,000. So you need to have your school fees, your living expense for 1 year if you want to study in Canada. At least when you have that, it's obvious that when the visa officer sees it, definitely they're going to see that, okay, well, this person has the funds. So you might have just one or do, at least one major reason why they can refuse a visa has been removed, which is on proof of funds. It's likely that is not conclusive, but at least you know that if you have the funds and you have the funds for your school fees, you have the funds for your living expenses for 1 year, the likelihood that you get your visa is high. Unlike when you don't have up to that. Then when we're calculating all these things, we use official exchange rates. We use official exchange rates to calculate all these funds. What you need is the average that you need in Canada for your living expense and your school fees is about $30,000, which is about 10 million naira if you want to convert it to naira as of today. So, yeah.
Yeah. So then we've established how much you need for your basic requirement. And so then, of course, everyone wants to know, all right, okay, if I get the money, how long do I have to have the money in my account? Very popular question.
Yeah, it is.
And there's, it's kind of, in some ways, it's a bit of a difficult question to answer because there are so many factors that will go into how long your money should be there. Are you paying only yourself? You're the only person paying? Are you having a sponsor? Is your spouse helping you out? And then it depends. What is the history of your account? Do you have a lot of transactions coming in and out all the time? Have you had most of the money in your account for a long time? Or are you just getting a big lump sum payment in, and then you want to know how quickly you can submit? So in most cases, we would like to have an account that shows a good balance for about 6 months. But sometimes you can do 4 months. And so it's really going to change depending on your own personal background and the history of your account.
Yeah. Just like you said, it's a big question. Officially, we prefer to use 6 months. If you have the money in your account for 6 months, is better because it shows that you can really finance your education. But we have used 4 months for many of our clients and we got results. So really first 6 months. Now, how long should that money be in your account? Just like you said, so many factors. So we've had people that had funds in their account for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and they still got their visas. We had people who had the funds in their account for 3, 4 months, they got their visas. We had people who had the funds in their account for 6 months and even much longer, and they got their visas. But just like you said, your individual circumstances determines that. For example, we recently got an approval for a client who had just 1 million naira in his account, and we got his visa approved. But that's where the individual circumstances now comes in. What do? What's your source of funds? A lot of people just think, okay, let me pay in money today into my account, print that same account that same day, and submit my application. Most times that does not work. You just want to pay in lump sum into your account, and you expect that the visa officer will believe that you have that funds. In 99% of cases, it does not work. Unless the only way that will work is if you had an history of lump sum coming into your account. So let me give you an example. Maybe in 1 year, the highest money that came into your account is 10,000 naira. You now want to submit your application for study, and 10 million naira just came in a day before. The likelihood that your visa will be refused is very high. But if your account has been okay, I had a client recently, we had a client recently who paid in money just before we submitted our application and she got the visa approved. Why? If you look at the history of the account in 1 year, every month, almost around that same amount, 8 million, 9 million, comes into the same account. So that kind of account, yes, you can go in at the end of the month or when you're about to submit and pay it in, because the history of the account would have shown that, oh, January this came in, fine. February this came in, March this came in. Not that in the
Mhm.
history of the accounts there was no large. The highest that ever came in was 10,000 naira, or let's say 100,000 naira, and just when you want to submit your application, you are paying in 10 million naira into your account. That's a big red flag. Big red flag. And most times once the officer sees that, they may not even look at your application again because they feel, oh, you are trying to deceive them that you have the funds when you don't have it. Then another thing I was going to say about lump sum, even for someone that has had funds coming into account long time ago, you need to explain the source of the funds. What is that fund for? So someone like the person that we said had 8 million, 9 million coming to the account, and when we were about submitting, she paid in a lump sum and still got her visa approved. We were able to trace the source of that funds and explain it that, okay, see, this is 9 million that came in on this date. This is what it's for. It came in, this is source, this is where it came in from. Is it a business? Is it your husband? Are you trying to invest? What's the source of the funds? So if you just have funds coming into your account, you will still get a refusal based on that fund. I mentioned earlier when we started that there was someone that had 40 million naira in her account and she was refused. When she now came to us, we told her when we got the GCMS notes, the only reason why they refused her was that she had series of bogus funds coming into her account. Bogus funds. Bogus funds in the sense that you cannot explain the source of the funds, you cannot explain what the source is for. It just comes to your account, and you can't link it to what you do. Your salary, maybe you're earning 500,000 every month, and 40 million, 30 million is coming to your account. Where is that money from? You need to explain it and show evidence of where you got it from. Otherwise, your visa will be refused, despite the fact that you have the funds in your account. And that's what happened to her. But when she came to us, we guided her, showed her what she did wrong in her first application, and we just recently submitted the application, and we are sure, or I think we're confident that they cannot refuse application on the basis of form, because now we have done the right thing. We have explained to them the sources of her funds and what other things she's doing that she gets that fund from. And right now, I'm confident that she's likely to get a visa. Any other comment on that?
Well, completely. I mean, if you are showing what if let's say that you have an employment and you have explained your job and you have also provided your annual salary, how much you make, and then you have significantly more in your account than it would be reasonable for someone to make at your position. It's just like, what? Where did this money come from? It's very concerning for the person who's reviewing it, because you have way more money than you should have. And you didn't say, oh, my parent gave it to me, or I have a business I run on the side, or nothing was talked about. And so then they have no idea where this money just came into your account from. It's really a big concern for them. And actually that goes really well into one of the questions we got, which is, my friend just paid 40 million into my bank account and I want to submit my application soon, maybe in 5 days. Would that be all right? Probably not. No, I don't think that that's
Not
I
likely.
think not a good idea, unless, like we said, unless you're constantly having money that's coming in and out. Maybe you can explain that, or if your friend is your official sponsor, and you're going to be receiving financial support from them. But then there's a lot of supporting documents that you need
Yeah.
to show to make that convincing of why they gave you so much money. And
Yeah.
the other problem is, if it happens right before you submit, that does not instill any confidence that you are really having this money permanently. It's there now. Oh, is it gone next week? I don't know, because it just showed up. So you have to be careful, very
Yeah.
careful with bringing in big amount of money right before you're going to submit. Yeah.
I totally agree with that. Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do another question here, which is, I think we should talk about, um, can my spouse, or often other people ask, can my parents sponsor me for my studies?
Yeah,
Yeah.
your parent can sponsor you very well. They are your parents. They are, when your parents are very close to you, it's still a close knitted family relationship. So your parents can. In fact, anybody can sponsor you as long as you can defend why they are sponsoring you. Very important. You know, your parents can sponsor you. You know, you bear the same name. You can show that they are your parents. You have pictures. You have apart from bearing the same name, you have your birth certificate to show that, come, this is my dad, this is my mom. Look at it. See my birth certificates. See their names on it. You know, and those are things that can actually confirm that, okay, there's a relationship. So third party relationship is fine. Your parents can sponsor you, but I think we should just go on and talk about third party relationship, because it's not just parents, you have brothers, you
Mhm.
have sisters, you have employers, you even have
So
distant relatives. Go
I
on.
think that the farther away you go from the
Mm,
connection, the more
yeah,
you need to explain it. So if you're being sponsored, even if you're a grown adult, you're in your 30s or 40s or whatever, and your parents are going to give you some money for your studies, it's still understandable. Or if your spouse is going to help you pay for your studies, this is very understandable. They are your next of kin. Parents universally around the world, parents help their kids through education, parents help their kids buy a house, stuff like that. And of course, your spouse is supposed to support you in life. That's the point of marriage. So this is very easy to understand. But the further you get from that connection, so you go from your parents sponsoring you to maybe your brother or your sister sponsoring you. Okay, that's a little bit further. It's still in your family, but you're going to have to maybe try a little more to explain why they want to help you out,
yeah,
to establish your close relationship. Maybe they've helped you financially before. You want to submit your birth certificates that show you both have the same parents or something like that. And if you keep on going out, you have an uncle or a cousin or whoever it is in your family is sponsoring you. The further they are from you on the family tree, the more you're going to want to establish a strong relationship, which
yeah,
will prove why they want to give you the money in the first place. Because it can be a lot of money, and you need to show good reasons for why they want to give this money to you.
yeah. Then apart from showing the reasons why they want to give it to you, and yeah, apart from showing that, you also need to show their own source of funds. It's very important. Don't just think they just write a letter, I'm giving you this, and you just submit it. No, document their sources of where they get the funds from. So you want to document their bank statement, their base pay slip. Do they have a business? Document it, because those are you don't want to give room for them to turn down the application. So why not provide them all the documents that they need? I give you an example, or let me expand it further. For Canada applications, the visa officer will look at what you are submitting. You will not be there to defend the documents you have submitted. So why not take your
Mhm.
time to give them everything they need, so that when they look at it, they will see. But if you are going for an interview now, they can ask you, oh, okay, clarify, why is your brother sponsoring you? You'll be able to tell them. Clarify, what does your brother do? You'll be able to tell them. So you should understand that whatever they will ask you in an interview, you're not seeing them. You're not going to be with them when they are reviewing your application. So submit all documents that you think it's available, that can back why the person is sponsoring you, including your birth certificate, the sponsor's employment record, sponsor's investment, everything that you can
Mhm.
have or get from the sponsor. Show it, because you don't want them to feel like this person is coming to Canada. It says it's being sponsored by a sponsor, either a brother, sister, uncle, auntie, or whoever, but we don't know what the person is doing. We're not even sure if the person really has the funds to sponsor. Just showing that someone has funds, your sponsor has funds in the account, is not sufficient enough for you to show that your sponsor has given you all the documents in there. No, it's not just about dropping back to me and writing the letter. Get other documents to back what you are submitting, so that you are sure that you are certified the officer, and by the time he looks at all those things, he can approve your visa and not refuse it based on proof of funds.
Yeah, exactly. I think, if you have got your sponsor, and this is something we say to people a lot, okay, they may have, maybe 50,000 Canadian dollars in one of their accounts that they can help out with your all of your fees and everything. But do they have their own house, their own family that they have to continue paying for? What about their own expenses? What if something unexpected pops up for them? There's a lot of factors that can be considered negative, even if you've got the funds there. So those are the type of documents that we need. Okay, maybe they have this in their savings, but aside from this amount of money, they also have a joint pension account with their spouse. And so they're not putting all of their savings into you. They have other savings that are for themselves. There's so many things that can go a little bit awry when you're using a sponsor. And I think sometimes people think that it won't be a problem because maybe it's more normal from where they are, maybe it's something like that. But in Canada, it's not really typical for anyone to pay for your education except for your parents or your spouse. So that's why just saying in a sponsorship letter that you're going to give them the money and you have the money, that's not really what they're looking for. They want something more with more reasons and with more certainty that they can really afford this and that they really want to do this. So yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
okay, I was going to add to that. See, if you're an adult, if you are a full adult, or well, let me say adult, there's something like full. If you're an adult and someone is sponsoring you, there are other things that you also need to look at. Let me come in and talk about that. You want someone wants to sponsor you. Let me give you an example. You are married, you have 4 kids, and you say your sister is sponsoring you. There has to be very strong justification for them to sponsor you. And apart from that, it also at times, not even at times, many times, if you have a sponsor, it's also good that you also show that you have some things from your own by yourself too. So it's one of the things visa officers look at. We're talking about funds today, but one of the things visa officers look at is, are you likely going to go back to your country of origin when they approve your visa? If you have funds, it's a good factor that they used to consider that yes, you are likely going to go back. So when you are being sponsored by a third party, it's not impossible, but you now need more evidence, more document to show that you're going to go back. Because one, if you don't, especially when you don't have any funds in your account, so many times, do you have a good job? You can have a good job and your sister still say, "Oh, my younger brother is going to study. I'm going to sponsor. I'm going to pay all his school fees." It's possible. Well, I've had a client like that. The client had funds in his own accounts, and the brother too said, "Oh, okay, no, you're my younger brother. I'm going to do big brother for you. I'm paying all your school fees. I have the funds." Yeah, possible. And those kind of visas will get, those kind of applications will get approved fast. Why? Because the client himself has documents and funds. So don't rely. I don't want people to rely too much on, "Oh, I'll get a sponsor from my auntie." Especially, she mentioned it. The farther it becomes, the more difficult it is, or the more documents you need to prove why they should sponsor you. So if you are getting sponsorship from other people, try to get the fund. If it's possible, I tell my own client, if it's possible, let them pay the funds into your account. It might be easier. It's easy. See, the further it goes, the more difficult it is to get the visa. So you want to ensure that, oh, okay, one of the issues that visa have with those kind of relationship or sponsorship is they are not sure that you have access to that funds, or they believe that you may not have access to try to change his or her mind. So even if someone is sponsoring you, if you can get the sponsor to pay that funds into your own account, that's fine. That makes it look really real. That makes it look like a real sponsorship. That okay, and you write a letter that, okay, I'm sponsoring this person. I've transferred the sum of this into his personal account on this date. The fear that the officer will have that, oh, you may not come back, not that you may not come back, that your sponsor will not give you the money when you want to get the visa, it's gone. And it's not their fault. There have seen so many cases where people say they will sponsor a student, the student gets here and he still cannot pay his school fees. So what happened? When you were applying, you said you had a sponsor who had millions. Now you have gotten the visa, you're in Canada, you are saying you want to apply for destitute visa because you don't have anyone to pay your school fees, or you're working more than the normal times you work because you can't pay your school fees. That does not make sense. So if your sponsor actually assists you by paying the funds into your account, that's perfect. So those are the kind of lump sums that you can use. Yeah, you can use lump sum and still submit. Because you can trace and tell them that, oh, okay, this is my sponsor's account. He has the funds. He has transferred 10 million naira from his account into my account. Look at it. He moved from this account on this day. He entered my account on this day. This is it. And in that regard, you might be able to pay lump sum to your account and still use your bank account. Because one, we can back it up with your sponsor's account and say, well, this is your sponsor's account. He has funds. You also have the funds in your account. He has transferred to your account. It's not your money. Or maybe wait for 1 month. Let you sit down there for 1 month so that it's not as if you just made lump sum and you want to submit immediately. You can wait for like a month so the money sits down there and they see that, okay, well, the funds is there. So be careful about when you are using third-party sponsorship. If your sponsor can pay the money into your account, I would advise he or she does that. I prefer that a lot if it's possible. If not, then you need to show a lot of documents, relationship, why they are sponsoring you, and a whole lot of things.
Yeah, exactly. Just to try to limit the possibility that they think you might get stranded in Canada without any money. So another thing that people ask about a lot is they want to know whether or not they can have a sponsorship from their employer. So yeah, your employer can sponsor you, but you really need to ensure that you're taking a program that actually is related to your work, that it would make sense for your sponsor to choose to do this, right? Because your employer, I mean, it's not that unusual for people to get sort of upgrading that is paid for by their employer if it's related to their profession already. But it would be really unusual if you work in a bank and then your employer is sending you for public health. That's not going to fly. So there's some factors that have to be considered. And then similar to the third-party sponsorship of family members, if you can get your employer to give you the money before you go, in the form of some kind of grant that they're paying you, that would be best. And you can add on to that a bunch of supporting documents, like your pay slips, your letter of employment, maybe an agreement, a contract that you sign for them to release the grant to you, that stipulates that they're giving you this money for the purpose of you performing better in your job, those kinds of things.
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. I agree with that very well. You can use third-party sponsorship. Your employer can sponsor you. You can even when they do that, your employer can give you what we call a bond. You can sign a bond with them that, okay, when you come back, you would spend this number of years. That can also help. So if your employer can also pay the funds to your account, it's good. Just show it. Show the employer's bank details. Show your own bank details. Link it up. It was paid on these dates. Receipts on these dates, and well, we're fine with that. Okay.
So what about if they are their own sponsor because their employer is the business that they own?
Yeah, that's one thing I see a lot too. When you're sponsoring yourself, you have your own business. Your business can sponsor you. But just like we said, also, there's a mistake that many of us make. We assume that business is sponsoring us, and we want to use the business account alone. Many times it doesn't work. You can use your business account, but if you have a good business account, it should reflect also in your personal account. If your business is doing fine and your business is earning good income, then you should also earn income as the CEO or as the director. And how does the embassy verify this? There should be transactions from your corporate account that goes from your corporate account into your personal account. Are you being paid salary every month? How much is it? Can your salary take you for this trip? So if your business is fine, get the company statement, add it to it, which is fine, but also have money in your personal account. It's always good. Don't assume that because your business has money, you now go and use that alone. You're not submitting your personal account that it's better that is sponsoring you. No, pay funds from your personal account, from your corporate account into your personal account, and use the two accounts together. It works very well if you do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then if there isn't that much money in your company account, um, it's better just to pay it all in, similar to employer, to pay it all in as a study grant, and then maybe don't even include the account. If you've been having that steady salary from your business every month, it shows that your business must be doing well. And if they give you the study grant, then that would probably work better than showing a really low business account, because that doesn't show that your business is doing very well.
Yeah,
And then, of course, if you own your own business and you're getting a letter of introduction from the business or anything like that, really be careful about what who's signing the letter. A lot of clients try to submit self introductions and signed by themselves, and that's not going to work out. That's not going to help you. So
yeah.
don't be using yourself to introduce yourself. It's not helpful.
No. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Totally agree.
Mhm.
We see a lot like that. Many CEOs, they will write letters and introduce themselves and sign the letter. You are signing the letter for yourself. No, are you the only one in the company? It's that if that's a sign to show that you are the only one working there. In my own view,
Mhm.
So if you have other people working with you, you could have an admin manager, you have a secretary. They're introducing you as a CEO. Yeah, they write it well. Let them write that and explain that and move the form from the business account, personal account, the one for your study, move it to it is better. It shows that you are doing fine. And just like you said, if your corporate account does not have good funds, you may not have it because they can use that to understand your line of business. If you find there will be a lot of transactions that shows that you have the funds, but if it's not doing well, it will be scanty. It may be just lump sum payment once in a while, and that will be an issue for you. So if your corporate account is not too good, move the funds to your personal account from your corporate account, and take that as the company sponsoring you, and that's fine.
Okay, and then another question that we get a lot is whether or not people can use some type of other investment that they have for their school fees. So things like if they have got maybe a cooperative at their workplace,
Mm,
or maybe they have a time deposit account, something like that, where they've got this sort of chunk of money sitting, gaining interest, and they're
mm,
wondering if that can be used. Yeah, that can definitely be used, because this is money that you set aside over time, and so it's actually quite a good thing to use, because you can say, well, for years now I've been paying into my money market fund or something like that, and
yeah,
for the purpose of eventually being able to afford this program I want to do, and I have the money now. So as long as you can show the money that you have, and you can give all the statements for it, and maybe get maybe a bank letter of reference that confirms the money and that you have access to the money, or who's a signatory, or the things like that, you can definitely use that. But you also, want to be sure that you can have, maybe in your regular accounts, there's still a little bit of money there, and it shows that this is a savings that you've accrued. It's not everything that you have.
yeah. Just to add to that, someone just also asked one question like that is linked to that, which you can address. He said, "I run a joint mutual fund investment with my spouse. I will plan to use it for funding her education. Can we use the investment account statement for proof of funds without liquidating it before submission?" Yes, you can use it. But one of the things we do when you have a joint mutual funds account, investment account, where did the funds come from? The funds will not just fly from the air into the mutual funds account. It's likely going to go in from your personal account into that account. We made it. You are
Mhm.
supposed to find it. So many times one of the things we do is we link that up. We show them that, see, I don't have. We have a client that got a visa approved. The closing balance in our account was 200,000 naira, and she got a study visa approved to Canada. And how did you do it? She had mutual fund investments that we were able to show them that, oh, look at the funds in our mutual fund. She's kept it. She's had that account for a long time, maybe like 5 or 6 years or thereabout. We told her to print 1 year of the mutual funds investment account. She printed 1 year of it, and we're able to show them transactions that went from our account into the mutual funds account, investment account. So the fact that she had just 200,000 naira closing balance in her account did not affect the application, because we're able to show them that, okay, this person has investment here, but you need to show the link. You're not going to be there to defend and explain. So you need to show the link in your write-up. If you're writing an SOP, show the link there that, okay, come, this is this fund. On this date, 2 million came into this account. It was transferred to my mutual fund account. Look at the statement of my mutual fund account. On the same date, the money was there. So that's a link that you can once, as long as you can show the source of the funds. So imagine if you are earning, maybe you're earning 20,000 and you're having mutual fund investments, and you're having deposit of 20 million in the account, and it's not linking, it's not shown, you're not seeing where the funds came from in your own account. They might still refuse your visa, because they will see that this money went in here, but where did it come from? Where's the source of the funds? When they look at your salary for 1 year, it does not even amount to that. So where did you get it from? So you need to be sure that you try as your best to link the source of the funds to your mutual funds account. When you do that many times, your visa is likely going to be approved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I think that a lot of people have a whole bunch of questions about the different types of funds that they can use. Most of the time, you can use it. No matter sort of what the fund is, it's just being sure that you can explain how you got the money, and that you have actually got access to the money, and that's the main thing for any type of account, really. So then the other part of proof of funds that I think that we should talk about today is the extra stuff that is not really related to the money you're spending in Canada, but instead will build up sort of your financial profile to show whether or not you're actually quite well established. And it also will provide some strong financial ties that will be good to prove that you have things to return to in your home country. So these would be your other investments and your personal assets, and that can cover quite a lot of things. If do you own land? Do you have a pension account? Do you have a life insurance policy? Do you have renters? Do you own a share in a business? Do you have you got things that you share maybe with your spouse? Maybe you share vehicles or something like that. All of these things, treasury bills, bonds, stocks, anything like that will build up your, they call, net worth. And that should actually be in your proof of funds explanation, because if you show, okay, I've saved all this money for my studies, and that's all that you talk about, it doesn't show that you are going to spend a reasonable investment here. Because if you are going to spend all of this money that you've shown in Canada and you have nothing left over, they're going to wonder, is this really reasonable for you? You're married with children and you haven't shown me that you are going to be able to even pay for the expenses that you have at home, or it's like, you have to show what else have you got. Most people have some stuff, even if they didn't think that they have things, they can add stuff into it that can show what other financial resources they have that they will return to, and that make it reasonable for them to spend this money because they have other sources of revenue that will still be there.
Then to add to that, let's be realistic. When you have, imagine you are showing that you have 40 million in your account and you don't have any other thing, no investments, no assets, it doesn't flow. So it's going to look like, especially if you now just pay it in as a lump sum again, it shows something is wrong. And that's the challenge with people that tell you that they can help you pay funds into your account. It's not just the funds alone that flows that you need to show. Showing funds is one thing, but you need to show other things that shows that will serve as ties to your own country. You have, just like you said, you have cars, you have houses, you have lands, treasury bills, mutual funds, and all kind of cooperative investments. You need to have that. And if you have so much funds and don't have that, then it might not also flow. So be careful
Mm.
about people that ask you to. I think we should talk about that too, Seth. People that tell you they are going to help you process, they're going to help you fund your account, and at the end of the day, if you're not careful, they will do it, but at the end of the day, it may not work out for you, because the other things that flows with it may not. Let's talk about. Should we talk about that
I
and
see.
see?
Yeah, let's talk about
So
that
we have,
now.
okay, there's something we have. There's something that someone sent to us. Let's show you so you see it, and we can just talk about this. So we have someone that sent this to us and said they sponsor you with bank statements. The sponsor bank statement is going to serve two things for you. Tie it back home. The company will provide you bank statements with closing balance of 20 million, leave letter, implement this CAC, and all of this. Many times, be careful about things like this. Do you know why? When they change your profile, let me explain the consequences of this thing. Now they give you letter of employment, they give you a sponsorship letter. You have now come to Canada as a student. Don't forget that many of you who are planning to come here want to come as a student, and you have plans of PR. They have changed your profile. They have said you are working somewhere else. When you want to do PR, you now go and apply. Some people may even forget that they had filled something like this in the past. They won't remember. They will now go and fill their correct whatever, and the officer will now say, "Oh, when you applied 3 years ago, you said you were working here. What happened? Misrepresentation. You now get 5-year ban, and you get a refusal for PR. You've gotten a study visa, but at the end of it, you got a study visa, but at the end of the day, you're not able to do your PR because of misrepresentation. And once you get a ban, 5-year ban, you might not even be able to get a visit visa or study visa, or even a PR visa if you're not careful to Canada again, because maybe by then, 5 years time, you might no longer be eligible. So be careful when you get all those kind of offers where people tell you, okay, I'll help you pay funds into your account, or I would help you get letter of introduction from an employer. They will give you their details, give you ID card. What if they go and investigate and they find out that you're not there? So you have to be very careful. So I don't use one little thing to spoil your chances of ever getting a PR visa or a visa to Canada tomorrow. If your visa is refused now, you can reapply tomorrow and you'll be given. So it's better for you to use your profile than using profiles that you can't defend, or if anything goes wrong, you don't. And I was going to say is this same thing is done for. They use the same document for many people. They can use the same document, the same document for 200 people. Over time, the embassy will flag it and see and know that, oh, this thing is a scam. They're just giving people this. They're not really working there. And at the end of the day, they will give you a ban that you use an agent. You did not tell them about it, and that will not help what you are doing. So please be careful with such things.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, like it's okay. To get to do this, this is definitely a scam that they're offering. It's funny that they sent the message to us. It's quite funny. Um, but a lot of people also ask, does this company provide bank statements for people? No, no. And if anyone is offering to provide you a bank statement, you should definitely not take it, because you have no idea where this bank statement came from, and you don't know how many people have used it. It's not verifiable. It doesn't always happen, but if they chose to try to find out if this account is real, they'll see that this is not a real account, or that it's not actually connected to you. And you're just going to land yourself in a huge pile of trouble, because you're using false documents, you're using forged documents
Yeah.
on your immigration. And that's a real concern. But also, that later on can lead to losing your status. It can lead to a lot of problems for you. So in the long run, it's a lot better to find the correct ways to go and to use your own documents, or to find a real sponsor, and not get lured in by these people who are making these great offers to you. They don't actually, they don't have your best interest. They just want the money for the
Yeah.
service that they have. So
Yeah.
it's not a good deal.
Yeah, your last comment is just the hitting the hammer on the nail. They don't have your best interests. they want to get money from you and use the same document for 1,000 people. It's not that. It's not that. It's not. They don't bother. They're not bothered about you at all. And when you get there, you may not find them anywhere. They tell you, "What I assisted you. It's not me. There's something. The document I gave to you is genuine, but you are the one that will face the consequence, not them. At the end of the day." Yeah.
Yeah.
So life, yeah. Anyway, so we're going to take some of the life questions too. I don't know if you still have some with you there.
I think that's most of the questions I got for today.
Okay.
The only other big question that we get quite a lot is people often want to know, when am I going to have to pay my school fees? And can I wait until I start working in Canada to pay my school fees?
Yeah.
That's a big popular question that we get.
Yeah, some people want to come to Canada without paying school fees. One, it doesn't speak well that you're coming to study in Canada. We've gotten visas for people who never pay school fees. Yeah, get that. We've gotten visas for people who never pay school fees. But the question is, what documents do you have to show that you can finance your study? It depends. You don't want to pay school fees deposits, and you don't have documents to. It doesn't flow. In fact, when you pay school fees, it's at times that is an evidence to show that you are a serious student and that you're really coming to study and that you're committed to coming to study in that school. So when you do all those things, it actually most times helps your application. Instead of saying that, okay, I don't want to make a deposit, you don't have to, Then one other thing I was going to talk that links to that is, it is not, if you are coming to study in Canada, try to at least have your school fees. It is not so easy for you to work and pay your school fees in Canada. Maybe I should repeat that again. It's not an easy thing. When you come in as a student, you're only supposed to work 20 hours per week. Let's do the mathematics. 20 hours per week times, let's say let's use $15 per hour as the average salary that you earn. $15 per hour times 20, that's 300. So legally in a month, you're supposed to earn 1,200 or thereabouts. Don't forget, you have to pay house rent, you have to eat, you have to buy fuel or enter buses or do one or two other things. And your school fees is about $15,000. So how many weeks will you work that will allow you to pay that would accumulate up and you'll be able to pay your school fees? It's tough. But one thing I'm sure about is, if you come to Canada and you don't have your living expense, you can work and pay for your living expense. That one is sure. But your school fees, no. It's not an easy thing. Otherwise, you will be flattening the rule by working more than 20 hours per week. And let you know, or you fail your course because you are working more than 20 hours a week, then it becomes an issue for you. So watch out for that. There are some questions here, which let's just pick those ones too. Some people are asking questions here. Someone said, can one use a fixed deposit account? Yes, you can use a fixed deposit account. We have used it for many of our clients in the past. But let me say something. Many of these fixed deposit accounts are easily manipulated. So you don't want the officer to feel like you don't have the funds. So if you have a fixed deposit account, just like I said, I said earlier on, or we said earlier on, if you have a fixed deposit account, show us how the money got to your fixed deposit account. We want the embassy that okay, see, on this date I transferred this to this account. On this date, my fixed deposit was liquidated into this account. Show the evidence. It's easier to use like that. Someone said, can my distant relative in the US sponsor me as I'm married? We've talked about that already. So watch the earlier part of this seminar. That answer is there. Someone said, is it advisable using microfinance for proof of funds? Microfinance can be used, but just like the challenge with microfinance is it's easily manipulated. Like now, one of the things we do when we submit applications to the embassy, we submit my bank statement ticket with it so that the embassy can verify the bank statement themselves. This doesn't work with microfinance bank. So they need to mail the microfinance and all that, and many times it's a bit cumbersome and your process can take so long. So microfinance account can be used, but it's all if that's the only account you have, fine. But if you have other accounts, it's good that you add that to it instead of just using the microfinance account alone. I won't ask any of my clients to use only microfinance account. Use regular accounts also. Add your microfinance to it, and we are sure that your visa will be processed fast, since they can easily confirm the bank statement from the regular banks without them having to send emails to them or write them. Someone said, can I use funds? Can you use funds you have in investment as POF? Yes, you can use it, but show where the funds came from. Show us the investment, where it came from. Don't just show you have invested 20 million. Where did it come from? Show us, add it to what you are doing. Okay, we've answered this. Can I use my hands as my sponsor? Is bank statement sufficient to be used in this case? You can use your hands, but bank statement is not sufficient in this case. You need to show our source of funds. You need to show where she works, our pay slip, every document that you can show to if she has a house, if she has investment, add it to it. Because you want to prove to the embassy, to the officer, that your aunt is comfortable enough to sponsor you. Can I use my hand? Someone also said, is bank sufficient to be used? Okay, we have answered that. What's the estimated sum you need to have in your account to be able for visa approval? We have mentioned that earlier on. We told you that you need minimum of $30,000 depending on your school fees. In Nigerian naira, that is 10 million naira or thereabout. If you're coming as a student, that is what you need. Then someone asked this question: should the funds be in my account untouched? should it be transactional account with the funds in the account? Can we fix the funds as a deposit with the bank? You can fix the account. If you leave it untouched, fine. If you leave it untouched, it's fine. As long as the money in the account can take care of your fees, fine. Instead of if you leave it untouched, I think it's fine. I'm okay with that. Can I sponsor my spouse by collecting some money from a cooperative society I belong to at work and pay back money for myself? Definitely, you can collect a loan. You can collect a loan, and as long as you show evidence of how you're going to pay it back and you have funds to pay it back, you can definitely do that. Is school fees paid per semester or per session? It depends on the school. Some schools will ask you to pay.
Yeah.
Most times it's per semester. Per semester. So you have, if your school fees for the year is $17,000, half of it will be for the first semester, half will be for the second semester. So you are sure that you have funds you have for your study. Yeah. So we've been here for an hour now talking about proof of funds. There's so many questions that can be asked on proof of funds. Now let me read this. Let me answer this one. Colin has answered this before, but let me add it again. So the last one that came in just now said, "Did your company run proof of funds for someone and pay back? We do not help. We do not help our clients run accounts for proof of funds. We don't do that at all. No, we don't do that. You need to get your proof of funds. You need to have the funds. We don't do that at all. We can help you. We can show you what you need to do. We can show you how. We can help you look at what you have and package it well and make it look like you have. Not that make it look like we help you package what you have well and package it well so that your proof of funds will be fine. But we do not help run proof of funds for people. We don't do that at all.
So that's illegal.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. Well, before we round up, I want to advise once again that you should follow us on our social media channels. Our handle is Untitled Chapter. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, and we're on Twitter. So we post a lot of things. This video too will be there. This video is going to be there, so you're going to see the video on all these channels. I'm sure of that. It will be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube after this session. So for those that missed the session, just watch it and go back to it. So it's going everywhere, So, Colin, any last words? Any words for our viewers? I want to thank you for coming first. Thank you for joining me here today. And any comments before we end the session for today?
Yeah, I think that if anyone who watches this can just keep in mind, if you're going to look at your own proof of funds, just try to be sure that you can explain where your money comes from, that you can show you have all the money you need, and that you can find as many ways as possible to build up your financial profile to show that this is a reasonable expense for you personally, because you have a house, you have a car, you have this, you have that. So if you can come away from this with that information, I think that will already help you out a lot with your proof of funds.
Yeah. So sorry. Well, thanks for coming. It was, I'm sure when people watch it, just share. Our advice: you also share this video with your friends and family members, so that they can also learn and understand what they need to know as regards proof of funds, so that their visas can be approved and not refused. So join us for subsequent seminars. We'll have another one next month by God's grace. So thank you for coming. For coming online today to join us. We look forward to seeing you again during our next seminar. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.